and there was a little cross, like a pocket cross. And so what they were doing, that was part of their invitation of, hey, we want to take care of you. This is going to be a very special time. And here are some things we want you to enjoy during this special time. So an invitation is something that really sets that bar up. It's a cue for what might be possible. A great invitation has a clear purpose. Um, so you want to think about your invitation. Who does the invitation come from, and who is it for? Who might not feel welcome? How does the invitation invite people to show up as themselves? Does it require specific knowledge or require specific technologies, prior knowledge? If you say meet in the Bethel Wesley Hall, do they know where the Bethel Wesley Hall is? Or is there signage for that? And is access restricted? Can anybody get there? Does it require anything that they might not have? That's one of the things to consider in your invitation. Communication is always so important. Focused message is what you need, clarity of the purpose. You want to be clear to the audience about who and why, and respect the language of the group. You want to provide opportunities to engage and ensure that someone who thinks they might belong knows how to enter, knows how to join, knows how to participate. And you want to build a confidence. You want them to go from, I'm not sure if this is for me, to, they really want me. So when you're communicating, it's good to just investigate how belonging might be showing up in these. Most of the time when we talk about belonging, we're looking at possibly events or actions that we're doing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about events because they can be one of the best ways of helping people to belong, but it can also be one of the ways whenever you have people feel like they're not part of a club, of the social club. So it's very important to design your event with belonging in mind. And I say always use your questions. Who, what, where, when, why, all of those questions. Consider why people would want to join you. Why are you asking them to join, and why would they want to join you? Who are you targeting? Will there be commonalities to build on, or will there be differences to bridge? You want to make it accessible in as many dimensions as you can. And consider the time, consider work schedules, consider other activities. And with all of those things being answered, then you can decide what is the best thing. And that what is only limited by our budgets, unfortunately, and also by our imagination. So those are some things to think of as you're in an event or creating an event. You see four things here. At the top left, they're going into an amusement park. On the top right, that is a cathedral. Down below, the bottom left is a dive bar. And then you all are well familiar this week with the ever-loved, beloved Zoom. Think about these places as you're entering them. What are the cues for these places? What says what is going to happen inside of this place? How you're going to show up? What you're going to do? All of those cues. Because entering is important. It sets up how you're going to belong. So when you think of the space that you're going to use, you want to think about the accommodations. Are they easy for people with different needs? The resources, the props. Is it the right activity? Does it set the right tone? What is the psychological and emotional impact? And what I mean by that is when you go in, are you supposed to be quiet or can you run around? Are you supposed to be formal or informal? Entering sets the stage for these, along with the space, the environment, the lighting, the furniture, how it's arranged, the outdoor access. If you want a lot of participation, outdoors is a very good place for that. Think of the furniture and how it's arranged. And you want to also think about the signage. Can people understand where to go? And does your message of belonging happen through some of the visual stories? When I say leave a trace, what I mean is consider inviting people to leave some evidence that they were there, that their work is appreciated, maybe what they were thinking or their personality behind, to help them to leave a trace so that they feel like this is my space, this is my belonging. So, in thinking about entrance, I'm wondering what was your experience first walking into your church? Now, some of you grew up in a church. You may not remember that. If you don't, think about what it was like to walk into another person's church. And what I'd like for you to do is to put a little bit of that in the chat. And while you're putting that in, we're going to look at some of those chats. While you're putting that in, think about the entry points of your facility, how attractive they are. Are they inviting? How well are the parking areas marked? Are there signs in your building that are clear? So, would you put into chat just a few words, if you will, about your first experience into walking your church? And Julia, I'm going to ask you if you will kind of name some of those, please.
I sure will. Jessica says clusters of people. Locked doors, unsure where to go.
Oh my God.
Carol. Mine was very, oh, hang on. They're coming in quickly.
Good.
There was a sign with a map in the parking lot that helped me know where to go. Mine was very inviting. Almost entire church welcomed me with open arms. When I first entered my church for the final interview, I accidentally walked around the entire building, because it was an off time and most of the doors were locked, and I had a hard time finding the door they mentioned for me to come into. Van says it was like joining with old friends. Christy says not a church, but an experience I had last fall at a place. It said it was handicap accessible, yet the row of seats that was handicap accessible were surrounded by stairs. There was not a way to get to that row if you were handicapped. Henry says a beautiful sanctuary with stained windows. Kim says the doors were locked because we were a bit late and there wasn't anyone to greet us or let us in. Finally, somebody saw us. Kathy says felt lost, did not know how to get to the Sunday school class. Paula says I was greeted by everyone individually. Says my church doesn't have a lot of signs. The entrance can be a little cluttered. Chris says our signage to find things is so very little. And Alan, there is no signage in the parking lot, and the signs inside are small and not very numerous. Lauren says, however, the first time I came for worship, folks greeted me and my family, escorted us to a seat, and made us feel incredibly welcome and wanted.
Oh, wow.
Constance says, greeters with a smile who unlocked the door. Paula says, open arms, loving hearts. Lauren says, oh, and they helped me with my kiddos. Patricia, no signage inside, was very sterile. All the hallways were blank, no art or anything. The sanctuary was very inviting and had a spiritual feel, and the people were friendly and welcoming.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Julia. And you all continue to. We've had a few to join us. We welcome you. We're talking about belonging and just offering some practical tips of how to welcome and how to belong. So, one of the things that I think I would be remiss to say if I if I didn't bring this up is food. We love food. We all love food. And you know what? If you look in the Bible, Jesus was always eating. Jesus is my friend. Uh, Breaking bread together can be one of the most wonderful ways of welcoming people, of belonging with people. And especially if you have different cultures, it could be a means of learning from that. Um, Food usually has a meaning. You have that family recipe, you have that wonderful thing. So, sharing those are some of the wonderful ways of being together and helping people belong. And one of the things is do be sensitive to allergies. There are some who have some serious allergies. So we do want to be sensitive to that. Now, how do we take these welcoming things and help people belong? We've looked at ways of belonging by creating events. We've also looked at ways of belonging by helping people enter into a space that is right for whatever the event is. Participating and contributing are one of the main ways that people can feel that they belong. And now, participating, the process for this is just numerous. You can find all kinds of ways to participate. I want to ask you what makes participation feel good? Not how to do it well, but what makes it feel good? You know, some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts. Some of us don't like to participate in big ways, but we will participate in small ways. Those are some things to think about. And it's also easy in our participation to have others feel like they're on the outside. If you need special tools, if you need to be a specific age or a specific type, then those things, if you're asking people to participate, you want to make sure that everybody feels like they can participate well. Contributing. Contributing helps people feel that they belong. And Susie Wise says that the more you belong, the more you can contribute. And the more that you contribute, the more you feel like you belong. So it's helpful for us to provide opportunities so that people can share their gifts, whether they're big or small, to share their talent and to provide meaningful ways to make contributions to the whole. People usually say they belong when they were at or felt they belonged when they were asked to contribute. So I'm wondering what opportunities do people in your group or in your faith community have to share their gifts and make meaningful contributions? Is your event friendly to all ethnicities and cultures? Helping people to show up by themselves? Are you encouraging them just to show up? In other words, if I wear a tie and you wear jeans, is that okay? Is it going to be all right? Um, if looking at language, if somebody is speaking a different language, are we going to help them by making sure that there's multiple languages so that they can participate as well? Behavior. Um, Babies cry. Kids are going to walk around. They're going to be kids. The culture of belonging is going to accept them where they are. Does anybody have a unique way of how you help people to belong? If you write it in the chat, if your faith community. And then how are people connecting? How are your new people connecting? In what ways do new people begin to belong in your faith community? And what makes people feel like they're not a guest anymore, but they're a part of you? Does anybody have anything to share with that?
Well, Renee, I sing in our praise and worship band, and so Laura is on one side, up in the pulpit. I'm on the other, and it's just because I like to dress up because I don't get that opportunity very often. I'm usually more dressed up. Laura, who has to be dressed up all the time, enjoys being in jeans and a t-shirt or blouse or whatever. So we've always kind of played it off that way so that, here I am dressed up and here she is dressed down. And we've actually had people mention that when they walked in, they realized what they were wearing was okay because, here I am on one end of the spectrum and here she is on the other end of the spectrum, and they're usually somewhere in between.
That is wonderful. That is a beautiful example, Melissa, of how you help to create a space that's safe for everybody, create a space where people are invited to just be who they are. They can show up in their jeans, they can show up dressed up, and it's okay. And that's a beautiful way. Do I have any others? Maybe one more real quickly. This is one of the good things to think about. In our chats, we talked about some were really having a good experience, that they showed up and people were taking care of them. And then in others, they were confused. They didn't know what to do. That's part of looking at how to belong. But I think the biggest part for all of us is, how do we help people participate and how do we help people contribute? Because when they get to do those, they truly feel like they are part of the group. Now, in doing this, I want to talk a little bit about different views. And dissenting sounds like a negative. It's not really a negative. I'm not using it as a negative. What I want people to understand is everybody has a different way of thinking. And especially if you're going to create a culture of belonging, you have to understand that there are going to be 3 or 4 different ways of thinking, and that's okay. No community can thrive without understanding how to work with conflict and disagreement. And there is no true belonging without allowing for different voices or different perspectives or ideas. And I think somebody has a little feedback. If everybody would please mute. Thank you. Thank you for that. How many of you have heard, "We have never done it this way. We always do it this way"? I see some smiles. I see some smiles there. Yep, we've heard that. That is not going to be conducive to creating a culture of belonging. You can have people come in with new ideas, with new ways of doing things. And what if we learned from each other? What if we looked at the opportunities to hear and to learn from different voices? One thing I want you to understand is, if people cannot express their voice, then they might as well not show up. So if you want people to belong, then a toleration and a learning of how to be together is important. We can learn so much from each other, but trust is going to be paramount in that. If belonging, it means that you're having a voice and an opportunity to participate in the design of social and cultural structures. And all of that is going to have some different views. And that's okay. That's good. That's the way God made us. So before we move on, do I have any questions or comments about what we have looked at? We're doing really well with time. I think I flew through some of this. Julia, are there any questions?
I wanted to just remind everybody there's some great ideas in the chat about how making people feel welcome and belonging. So make sure you check those out.
Oh, thank you. Do you want to share a couple of them?
Sure. Let's see. Individual invitation to join a work shift with you for a local mission project. Nikki says, I was once at a church that every few months we would sing and worship, I Need You to Survive, a song by Hezekiah Walker, where the congregation actually sings to each other. I need you, you need me. We are all part of God's family. Mm-hmm. And that was a special way that they nurtured an attitude of belonging. John says, we invite them to our activities. One of our strongest gatherings is our Tuesday chair yoga and lunch with occasional guest speakers. It's primarily for seniors, but anyone can attend. Lauren says, in her position, she tries to make time to grab coffee or lunch with new people that come to the church. And during that time, they get to know each other and always try to make at least one invitation to something that she thinks they would personally be interested in. And they also have a monthly Meet the Pastors coffee time. And it's really good to a really good get to know you session.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. There are a lot of wonderful ways, and there's always wisdom in the room. I love that there is always wisdom in the room and we can learn from each other. So thank you all for those good ideas. Continue to look at the chat for that. And as we move to our last third, one of the things to be asking yourself in your administrative board, in your whatever team you have that talks about hospitality, in your leadership, everywhere, what do people need that your congregation has to offer? And Bishop Snazy, I love these two things that I gleaned out of his book, The 5 Practices of Radical Hospitality. People need to know that God loves them. I believe that. People need to know that there is a higher source that loves them, that they are not alone. And how many of us in this time have felt alone or alienated, that they need hope that sustains them. We can't live without our hope. And then I love the metaphor he uses here as a school for love. That's what the church is. As a school for love, the church becomes a place people learn to love. So as a school for love, we can teach love. These are a couple of things that the congregation has to offer. Now, this looks a little like a mashup of Mad Libs. And so what I want to do is just get down to some practical things and let you all consider looking at a culture of belonging, trying to understand how to belong and helping others to belong. How might we support a certain group in belonging by focusing on a certain thing? It might be an event or an action using, and here is what you're going to use, the facility and when you're going to use it, where it's going to take place and when it's going to be used. So here's another way of looking at it. I want you all we're going to break out in groups and we're going to design an action or event to support belonging. And we're going to answer these 3 questions. So look at these. How might we support more belonging for, and this will be your target audience. And you try to make it specific, if you will. Maybe it's children, maybe it's youth, maybe it's older adults. By focusing on, and here's where the action or the event would be, and you want to design it for belonging. So you can kind of think about those points as well, using a place and a space and a time. Okay. So what I would like for you to do, we're going to break out in groups. Would one person please be the note taker and maybe type this down? When you finish typing it, we're going to copy and paste it into the chat if you're able to do that. And the reason for that is I'm hoping that we can share a bunch of them, but we want to share as many as we can. And the ones we can't get to, then you'll have the chat to look back on. So we are going to take a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions about this before we break out into groups? Is it clear as mud? So we're going to design an event or an action to support belonging using these three questions. How might we support more belonging? And you're going to use the target audience by focusing on an action or an event using a place, a space, and a time. So we're going to have about 15 minutes for this. It's not going to be a long time, maybe take 5 minutes for each one of those little actions, if you will, or each one of those spaces, those questions. And it doesn't have to be something in stone that you come back with. This is just a way of learning how to create something for a culture of belonging. So we're going to send you off now.
Here you go.
And we'll welcome back. And so you probably didn't get very far, but I would love to hear from a few of you what you had going on and what your thought process was. So any note takers in the group that would like to share, anybody who would like to share?
I'll share.
Thank you, Kathy.
When we did our group and pulled it together, we decided that we wanted to have an intergenerational type group, so where we can involve everybody. Mm-hmm. So our event was that we were going to teach a basic technology class, and that action was going to be the use of texting. And the purpose for that was where you could communicate a birthday, how are you today? And also the use of live stream by using Facebook, because that's how we, show our sermons today. And also how people that can learn how to use Facebook can talk and communicate and help with each other's feelings and all. Invite them. Our place is going to be in our church. It'll either be in the fellowship hall or a freestanding building if we have that. We're going to ask them to bring their smartphone or tablet, and we're going to have some available for them to use to learn in case they don't have one. We're going to have it on next whatever day, but on a Sunday at 4:00 in the afternoon. We're going to do our teaching, and then afterwards we're going to serve them pizza.
Ah, good old pizza. I like that you all thought through. Some might not have the iPads, the iPhones, the things, and so you're going to provide some of that along with the technology. I definitely would need that class. I think my technology skills are very limited, but I love what you all have done, intergenerational, and the reason for that, I am assuming, is because most people who are younger than me know a whole lot more about technology than those that are older than me. So helping them with that.
And we tried to come up with a time where hopefully the kids wouldn't be playing ball and stuff. So that's why we went with the Sunday afternoon. Hopefully we would get a better variety of people there.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions for them? I like the way that you were thinking through some of these things. That shows that you're trying to create a culture of belonging, but also trying to fill a need. And Julia, would you be willing to share what Shanna has in the chat for us?
Sure. There's a number of groups that have posted in the chat. Shanna says the target was veterans, congregation members, and bring family and friends and other vets they have served with. They would invite local veteran affiliated groups, have it near November 11th for Veterans Day. The activity would be recognition of each branch and the history, honor and recognize them at the event. The food would be brats and burgers. They would have a speaker, a small band with music, and they would use a church space.
Okay. So they've got a specific group here. All of the veterans would know that they belong to this group, and the activity is recognition. So that's going to help them to affiliate with each other. And I love that you're having brats and burgers. That sounds delicious for that. So thank you, Shanna, for putting that in. And we've got some others.
Yeah, do y'all want to speak, or do y'all want to hear some from the chat?
Anyone want to speak for us? I know there's some pastors in here. I can't imagine they wouldn't want to speak.
Well, group 2 put theirs in the chat. They said attract the under 50 crowd with a friends.
I don't mind speaking, so since you open
Okay, Carl.
Yeah.
Julia,
Since you
we'll
open
get
up
to
that,
group 2 in just a second. Yes.
yeah, since you open up the door about pastor speaking, I'm getting ready to go through that door. Okay.
Okay. Good for you.
Yeah, because I love to talk. In our group, I think it was group 10, if I can remember, we talked about having something for children and youth at a CC's Pizza where they could come together. They would be a part of the welcoming, the opening, and maybe the grace or a prayer. Lauren talked about having cards that we could put in the middle of the table. And from those cards, they could take the cards and have a discussion. What's on the card. And we were so excited about it that we really want to put this into action and maybe really have this as a real program. I suggested that maybe after the first one, how to really get people a part of hospitality and getting them a part of the purpose of the program and activity, where they could tell us what some places they might want to go or what they want to do so that everybody could feel a part of the program that we put together. So from our group, we were real excited and we want to put it into action. And I just want to say it's interesting that we're talking about this today because we talked about this past Sunday in Sunday school. And I want to say to everybody, you can talk about love all you want to, but people today, they have to see that. They have to feel that when they leave you, that there is a bond that's been developed among you and that person. We could talk about welcoming people to church, but at the end of the benediction and as they're leaving from the church to their car or how they got there, they should say, wow, that is a church who really loves people. And I think with all of the drama that we have going on in our communities within the Western North Carolina Conference, if you cannot find love in the church, where can you find it? Because remember the greatest commandment now, love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two hang all the commandments. So I need to stop because I'll get into a preaching mode and I don't want to do that.
I think that you've already gone through that door, Carl. And,
right.
and I love it. I love it. I would love to hear more from you on a Sunday.
Right.
I love that you all are asking them to contribute, to say, here's some places, here's some ideas we have, because that's helping them to join in and helping them be a part of that. And having it in a place that is not at the church is usually very helpful. A lot of people will come to almost any place but a church if they haven't been part of a faith community. So that's something to think about whenever when you're doing your events, is that getting it off campus might be one of the best things you can do to help people belong or feel like they are welcomed or feel like they can show up as themselves. So thank you, Carl, for that. And Julia, did you want to tell us about group 2, please?
I sure will. A number of groups have put things in here about intergenerational activities. I just wanted to mention that, so y'all check the chat. Group 2 says to attract the under 50 crowd with a friends and family day in the fellowship hall or the parking lot with games for all ages, and asking people to bring their grandmother's favorite dish and to dress in the back in the day clothing from that time.
I love that. So you're falling back on some of the familiar things of their families and looking at that. Your grandma's favorite dish. Everybody has a grandma's favorite dish. It might be your favorite dish that she would make for you. So good, very good. Is there someone else who would like to speak? We have time for 1 or 2 more.
I was in group 1, and we sort of talked about getting the children and the youth mostly involved with Bible study. And then we could combine the Bible study along with music, because sometimes, the different music from the church draws, children and the youth more. It depends on what the music they like, certain types of music, but we could combine Bible study with the music and along with refreshments, and hoping that they become more interested in the Bible and knowing who God is and studying, and then how the music can go with it, and hopefully bring in more youth with them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for that. One of the things too, and I'm going to go back to what you said, Carl, people will remember how they felt whenever they're in community with you more than they are going to remember what happened or what was said. If you remember in Unrelenting Grace, he said he didn't remember any of the sermons. He didn't remember that, but he did remember that this was a place that was safe for him and where he felt loved. And that's the reason Bishop Carter is a United Methodist today. So that says just so much. And creating those safe spaces to learn to love is so important. So we have quite a few in the chat. I hope you all are looking at that. I'm going to ask you, does anybody have any words of wisdom that's for the good of the group, or any questions?
I have a question. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, Sally, we can.
Okay, thank you. So we tried to plan an event last fall to invite LGBT people from the LGBTQ community. And what we did was first of all, we attended and marched in the Pride Parade that Asheville had. And we hosted a table where they came up to the table, and we had games and crafts for their children, those who had children with them. We had some prizes and giveaways, and we had invitations to an event we were going to do later in the fall. And it was at a brewery that has a great big yard that's open, that people love to go to on a Sunday afternoon, and that's when we did it. And we had other things planned for that day, and homemade cookies, but we don't think anybody attended that met us at the parade.
Okay.
And I'm just asking if there might have been, if we do this again, how we could do it better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had people who were there because they came to be at that place, but I don't think
Right.
because we invited them.
Right, right. And a couple of things that I'm thinking just off the top of my head, Sally, is that this community is going to be suspect of any faith community,
Yes,
unfortunately, because they've been harmed by this
yes,
community.
we know.
Not by all of us, but they have had some harm done to them.
Mhm.
So it I just want to say continue, because one of the things I want you to understand is you have permission to fail.
Yeah,
Your event, we're all continuing to learn. We're continuing to learn. So you have permission to do it. And if it doesn't, come back to the drawing board like you're doing, Sally, and say, how can we do this better? How can we do this better? And I think one of the things, especially with belonging, is one-on-one relationships, helping people to know that you do care, helping people to know that you are going to show up for them wherever they are, meeting people where they are is important, and just meeting them there, not wanting to take them anywhere, just meet them where they're at and love them. And I think that that is important. Sally, one of the other things I think is continue to participate in activities that, like the Pride Parade, that this community has for them, with the intent of just loving and
yeah,
accepting and being a part of that. And it might be that you become a part of this community rather than that community becoming a part of yours.
yep, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you for that question. That was a wonderful question. While there's time for more, but I wanted to um, hopefully show you my, let's see if I can find it. While you all are thinking about things, I wanted to show you the resources that I am using. And I'm going to have to see if I can share now. I had to get it up again. I'm sorry. So the resources that I am using, I don't know why it's not showing the whole thing, are the 5 practices, radical hospitality, Design for Belonging from Susie Wise. I love this book, and I would um, recommend it to anyone who wants to look at belonging or hospitality. It has some good, a lot of the nuts and bolts came from that, and there's a lot of good material in it that you can use with your leadership or any of your other teams. And then The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. Some of you clergy are familiar with it if you went to the Royal Church Convocation. Priya Parker was one of our speakers, and she talks especially about the nuts and bolts of this. So here are some really practical tools to put in your tool belt to help you design a culture of belonging. I want to thank you all for sharing this time with me. I know that you all could have been doing so many different things other than this. So thank you for this. I appreciate it. I hope that you got a little bit out of it. We scratched the surface, and I understand that, but you're more than welcome to let me give me an email. Let me talk with you a little bit more. I'm available to come to your churches and all if you like. But here is my email address. Again, my name is Renee Easter. I want to thank Julia Gibson. I cannot do anything in my life without Julia Gibson. And so I thank her for that. And I am going to let you all go with 4 whole minutes. How about that? But I will remain on if anybody wants to share anything in the chat or share with me or talk with me or ask me questions. I'll stay on for a little while longer.
Hey, Renee, where are you located?
I am located in the wonderful Yadkin Valley District,
Okay.
Winston-Salem.
Okay, well, you're not too far from Greensboro. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I might take you up on that offer sometime.
That will be fun. Would love that.
Thank you.
So, God bless you all. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I hope that you got one little thing out of it.
Thank you, Renee.
You so much. Have a blessed day, everybody.